What is the worst Bionicle piece that you can think of? I've got something in my mind, and this video is specifically for Lego, so if you're not Lego, don't watch this one. But, what is this? Okay, here's the thing. I don't know if I would necessarily say this is the worst piece, but it's surely not the best. In fact, it is a piece that I have tried over and over again to find uses for, to get it to look good on other things, and I just don't think I can. I've seen it used elsewhere, and I don't think that there's a single time where I've seen it used that I have appreciated it, that I have liked it, and it would have made sense for this to appear, for this to exist, if LEGO had maybe used it in one of the 2008 vehicles, but they didn't. It is exclusive to the Onua Mystica set from the second wave of 2008. And why? So here's the thing. We're going to talk about 2008 a little bit here. It's a weird year. And specifically, we're going to focus on the second half of 2008, the Mystica era, and more specifically focus on the Toa sets. But I did want to mention something before we get into that. Hey, if you want to subscribe, go ahead and subscribe. But actually, the thing I wanted to mention, this guy right here. 2008 introduced to us some pretty interesting launchers. I will say that it is definitely better than 2007 in its launcher design, but they're interesting. 2007 did one thing well. The launchers consist of 4 pieces, right? You have the squid launcher, which is just one piece on its own. You have the Kordak blaster. That is 3 pieces in and of itself. It comes pre-assembled, but there are 3 pieces involved there, not including the spring. This right here also has 3 unique molds to it. The piston or bellow, whatever you want to call this, the pump. It has the body, chamber, whatever you want to call that as well, and then it has the ammo, which is exclusive to this weapon. All of these are fine. In fact, I think this is a good weapon, but it's weird. Why does it exist? In the first half of 2008, LEGO introduced to us the Midak Sky Blaster, and in fact would also introduce it to us on several of the vehicle sets from this year as well. And that set also contains several exclusive pieces in an assembly that comes pre-assembled. But there are 4 pieces in that, right? There is the plunger, there is the body, there is the cap that goes over the top of it, and there's the trigger that goes inside of the cap. And all these work together beautifully in order to allow you to fire a projectile that already existed, the Zammer Sphere, right? So seeing this, okay, it makes some sense to see a second launcher for the year, but this is not the second launcher, this is the third. We also got the Tridax pod, which came with the ribcage for the Makuta sets and each of the little shadow leeches within those Tridax pods themselves. And once you start to add this up, you see that this is a lot of unique molds. How does that eat into your parts budget? Well, we can see this from 2008. Although all of the Makuta and Fantoka sets from the first wave pretty much use unique weapons. Obviously, some of those weapons appear elsewhere, but unique to those sets. The second half reuses a lot of weapons. We would see this a lot. For example, probably the most notable example of this, the Mystica, the Toa Mystica, Tahu specifically, has a 3-fingered claw on the back of his leg. It looks cool. It is weird that it's on him and not on Onua, but I digress. But here's the thing. That claw also appears on Bittle. That claw also appears on Gorast, and it also appears on some of the vehicles, and that's fine. I don't have any issues with these weapons reappearing on vehicles because you've got to flesh out these vehicles somehow. But why does it appear on so many of these sets? I actually don't mind that, but here's the problem I start to have. This is yet another unique mold from 2008. The crosshair that attaches to this from the Gali Mystica set is yet another mold that appears in 2008. None of these are melee weapons, right? So I have to ask myself, if I was going to make these sets in 2008, if I was going to design them myself, but if I was going to do it in such a way where I respected the logistics, respected the fact that these are in canister sets, how would I do it? You guys may have seen on my channel recently that I posted some videos last month about my Mystica revamps, and I love them, but it's not reasonable to expect the LEGO to have created something like this because there are a lot of pieces in those builds. Some of those builds have over 100 pieces each, and canister sets usually don't get anywhere close to that. So I have to ask myself, what would LEGO have done? What could they have done to approach what I was attempting to do, but in a way that's more reasonable? If you had gotten rid of this on Onua, you can keep the gun if you want to, that's fine, or just use the Midak Sky Blaster and just remove all of these molds, right? Remove the crosshair, remove this, remove the bellow, remove the ammo, remove this. You have 5 new slots open for brand new exclusive molds for this wave. Now, use those 5 slots wisely, right? What should I produce instead? Well, for one, I could give them a unique armor piece. Well, I guess you could make the argument that Onua Mystica introduces a new armor, because he does. That upper chest piece, it is shared between him and the Krika set. Now, I would make the argument that the Krika set features it first, because it is designed specifically to fit within that opening within the Makuta torso, and I like that. I think that that's a good idea. So, what I think I would also do is I would introduce the claws, the 3-fingered claws, on Onua instead. You can put them on the back of his legs for storage and give him another weapon, maybe somewhat reminiscent of his chainsaws or something else entirely unique. And then those 3-fingered claws would be recolored in black, and you could put them on his hands when you're not using those chainsaws, right? Or if you are using the chainsaws, maybe both can work together. That's pretty cool, and it pays homage to Onua from his earlier iterations, to the earlier appearances. Now, I know people have made the argument, well, LEGO didn't know that these were going to be the Toa Nuva. At some point, they did. Here's the thing. Logistically, they had to, because they have to manufacture these products, get them into canisters, and then get them ready for release, which takes months. And yes, that process takes months. You have to respect it, but you have to know at some point that that decision was made. And when that decision was made, the changing of one piece does not take a lot of time, right? If I said, okay, so these are going to be the Toa Nuva now. We're not finished. We're still in the prototyping stage, of course. What can I do to make this look Toa Nuva-like? Even assuming it's too late to change the masks, at the very least, you can give Onua his claws. You could, if you wanted to change the mask, just mirror Kopaka's mask so that the eye is on the correct side. I still think it's not a great mask for him, but it's fine. At least have it be on the right side. With that said, on top of all of this, I would think that the Gali set would actually be the one to use the sort of fidget spinner shield. And I have a reason for this, a couple of reasons actually. It does pay homage to her Nuva form and her Mata form in one way. Her Toa Nuva form has propellers on the back of the wrist, so you could make it out as being a little, callback to that. On its own, is it enough to fly a character with? No. But the neat thing about that piece is it's mounted on a water shield, and that's pretty cool. It's a water shield on a water character, but also each of these individual propellers is hook-shaped, which I think would also be a great homage specifically to the Galimata set, which has those hooks as her main weapons. So that leaves Tahu as the one with no weapons currently. What do we do for him? Well, this is where we spend one of those new mold slots that we came up with. And in this case, I would create a large sword that is capable of essentially acting as a sheath that goes around the power sword. And why the power sword? In fact, I'll grab that piece for you if I can dislodge it from this character's hand. Why this sword specifically? This is featured on a fire set. It also has some openings here that could be utilized to connect some transparent pieces to add a flame aesthetic or a heat aesthetic in the middle here. And that's a cool idea. But this sword actually shares dimensions very closely with Kar's fire sword from 2009. And at some point, LEGO knew in 2008 that 2009 was going to be the Glatorian era. Again, they designed these several years in advance, right? Which means it's likely that they had a design ready to go for a Kar's fire sword. Now, I'm not saying that they had to release it with Tahu instead, but if they knew that it was going to come out, you could make this essentially future-proof, right? Designing this sword so that it fits the Akar fire sword and doing so around a piece that already exists means you can re-release this piece, you can have that second sword go around it, and then when Akar comes out in 2009, you now have the fire sword to put inside of here, and oh, would you look at that, it's essentially Tahu Nuva's fire sword, but bigger. And that's pretty cool. That's in fact what I did on Blender. Granted, I'm not showing you that today because I do not have that pulled up, but you can check it out on my Discord, which will be linked in the description below. Instead, what I'll be showing you today is some mask designs that I came up. Well, just one, really. So I've actually spent a little more time yesterday kind of hammering out some ideas for Mystica masks specifically. I ended up designing the Kikama, which I think looks okay. I'm not showing that one off today because I have not sketched it out. The mask I am going to show you today is a design that I started with that Rothanak ended up actually sketching for themselves because they really liked it. So thank you. Shout out goes out to them as well. And one of the reasons I like that they are doing this is because they stay very, very faithful to my vision, right? I don't tell them what to do. I still give them, creative freedom to kind of do whatever they want. And you'll see some freedoms here. The same is true for my Tahu mask, which was featured in a previous video. But without further ado, let's get it right on into it. So, as you can tell here, this is a Miru. This is a Fantoka Miru specifically, and this one actually has some dimensions to it, which I like. Or I shouldn't say dimensions, definition to it. You can see how things are supposed to be structured, which I adore. So with my mask, I did not account for this sort of cheek protrusion. I know that that is on the Mata mask, and I think it makes sense to have it here, so I think I would keep it. In this case, though, one of the other things I really like about this is how it sort of structures the mask with the same amount of holes as the Nuva mask. This one does not show a third hole in here, but my drawing does. However, it also follows the shaping closely of the Mata version of this mask. It still looks sleek, it still looks elegant, aerodynamic even, but I think it really works for this character. And here's the other thing too. 2008 didn't just introduce us to weird weapon molds. It also introduced us to the visor for the vehicles. And it's a neat piece. It's a niche piece, though. It only fits 2 masks. And is it worth it? I don't think so. The 2007 visor to me is honestly fine. I didn't need another one. I would much rather have had that 2007 visor maybe recolored in a different transparent color. I know it appears in white, of course, but maybe a trans lime green or a trans clear or whatever, right? And then make these masks compatible with that visor. It doesn't mean that they need to include the visor in the set, just make them compatible so that you can add your own from that collection. With that, I think you have a really strong start for these masks. You guys have already seen the how design that I came up with. Rothanak sketched this one out as well. I just colorized it, and I have not done any editing at all to this Miru yet. I also haven't opened the picture of the Kakama that I designed, but they have not sketched it, so it would look much worse than this. But you get my point here, right? I'm trying to come up with designs that are faithful to the characters, and then I will work on building characters around them. But in my opinion, I would just remove the gray from 2008, remove the silver from 2008. I think that they have their place, but not there. They do not sell themselves well. I would get rid of that mid-axe Sky Blaster, Nanra Ghost Blaster, my bad. I would get rid of that, keep the mid-axe Blaster, and instead utilize those molds for other things, right? So that means that the insect Makuta would get revamped, and I will probably do that here in the near future. And then I will revamp these sets as how I see them as canisters in the future as well. I would also like to revamp the Makuta torso specifically so that it can be used both for the Makuta and for the Mystica. And I would do so in such a way that keeps my abdomen articulation, if I'm able to, in this set. So that's the next piece I'm going to work on designing. Of course, it has to still be able to accept that rib cage, to accept that Tridax pod and everything within it, and work with that function, of course. Maybe I would redesign that rib cage a little bit, but suffice to say, still needs to work with all this stuff. That's pretty much it for this video. So if you guys did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It does really help this channel out a lot. You guys have been doing wonderful when it comes to following through with that stuff. The engagement on this channel is honestly unbelievable, and I have all of you to thank for it. The love, the support, and everything that I have been seeing here has been undescribable. And we have been growing so incredibly fast. I don't have words, So we're just going to continue doing what we're doing. I hope to show you a mock here in the next little bit. I do want to do another Baraki combiner today if possible. Try and get that video out today. I relaxed a little bit yesterday, had family over, and the weather is amazing right now, so I honestly kind of want to go outside. So I'll probably do that first, but hopefully we can get another Baraki combiner out. If I don't, though, I think that's okay. We've been trucking through them like crazy. We're already halfway through, so I'm not going to complain too much. But that's pretty much it for this one. So as always, Discord, Instagram will be linked in the description below. If you want to support the channel, you can check out my Patreon, which is down there as well. Get a couple perks for while you're at it. And of course, I will see you all in the next one. Just make sure you're subscribed. Later.